It's your girl Geefs. Let's talk softball.
Welcome back to the channel. Let's break down this past weekend's regionals. First up, we're going to talk the most talked about regional that knocked out the #1 seed for the first time in 20 years since the tournament has been run this way with the double elimination format. Wow. Texas A&M opens up the tournament by absolutely whopping St. Francis 18-zip. So it's looking like they're gonna roll through this regional. Because they're the #1 seed, they should be facing, technically speaking, the lowest seeds of the bunch, like the at-large bids and things like that, which is most of the non-seeded teams. They're either conference champions or at-large bids. St. Francis immediately falls into the losers bracket, and if you don't know, the way double elimination works for the NCAA softball regionals is you need to win 3 games, 2 losses, and you're out. And so St. Francis drops into the losers bracket. Liberty plays Marist. Liberty beats Marist 10-5. St. Francis and Marist have to play. Whoever winner of that game will advance into the second losers bracket. Following day, Liberty plays Texas A&M. Liberty pulls that game out 8-5. Texas A&M falls into the losers bracket, beats Marist 17-zip. So it kind of is looking like, all right, yes, they may have lost to Liberty 8-5, but there's no way they're not going to make it out of this regional. Then day 3 of the regionals rolls around, and Texas A&M and Liberty face up. Liberty needs to win 1 game to advance. Texas A&M needs to win 2. So Texas A&M ends up pulling out that first game, and they beat Liberty 14-11. So it's looking like maybe, just maybe, Texas A&M is going to pull this out. Then Rachel Roop says absolutely not.
To be very careful here. Roop drills this.
Pesky Liberty softball players, some way, pull off the biggest upset in NCAA regional history, knocking out the #1 seed for the first time in 20 years. Insane. I think almost everyone had Texas A&M pulling out of their regional and making it to Oklahoma City. Yeah, that was kind of shocking to me. Then next up, one of my favorite regionals that I really wasn't sure which way it was going to go was the Eugene regional. So we got Oregon, Weber State, Binghamton, Stanford. I thought we may end up seeing Stanford and Oregon in the regional final, which is exactly what happened. Stanford ends up in that winner's bracket the whole time. They score between their first 2 games, I think 24 runs in those first 2 games, and then they even beat Oregon that first day. Oregon fell into the losers bracket. Oregon comes back the next day, beats Stanford 15-5, and then Oregon pulls off a walk-off win against Stanford. And for those of you who don't know, Nigeri Kennedy, who's now at Texas Tech, led Stanford the past 2 years to the Women's College World Series. They still were able to make a regional. I just don't think that their pitching staff is as deep anymore. So yeah, and Oregon pulls it out. Up, we've got the LA regional. I don't watch too much of this just because I don't know. I really didn't think it would be that competitive. It wasn't. UCLA won all 3 games. Yeah. Like, there really was no kind of doubt about it for UCLA. They beat UC Santa Barbara 9-1. Then the next day, they beat San Diego State 10-zip. Then following day, they beat UC Santa Barbara again 12-1. So UCLA moved on. I'm excited to kind of see them in their super regional, but Yeah, their regional was unfortunately kind of boring to me. Then same with South Carolina Columbia regional, another one I thought maybe Virginia might give them more of a fight. Um, but that's not what happened. So they played Elon the first day. They won that game. Then they beat North Florida. Then they beat North Florida again. So again, another regional that to me was not super surprising or exciting. And the Florida State regional. Now this one, I was a little worried for Florida State. I actually thought Auburn would pull this one out. I really only had two teams on my potential upset list. Thought Ole Miss would upset, and they did. We'll get to that. Then I thought maybe Auburn could pull off an upset, and they didn't. So they almost made a comeback. They did beat Florida State 8-3 in the first regional final game, but because Auburn was in that losers bracket, they needed to win two, and Florida State pulled out that last game and beat them 4-0 to head to the super regionals. All right, next up we've got the Lubbock Regional, which is Texas Tech. Nigeria Kennedy, they were just raw. I mean, she got some good support from her teammates, and from their lineup, but they rolled through everybody. Mississippi State put up a fight, but there was really not much they could do to kind of shut down that Texas Tech offense, or the pitching scored 6 runs at regional final. But this, to me though, this was more of an interesting regional. I thought Mississippi State again would give a little bit more of a fight, but somehow they made it through. The Tucson Regional. Arizona Ole Miss. Ooh, ooh, ooh. If you did not catch these games, I suggest going back and rewatching them on ESPN, because the way that Ole Miss, yes, between Brianna Lopez and Aaliyah Binford, even watching them in the SEC tournament, I knew that they could pull off an upset. I'm not surprised that they were able to upset Arizona. Again, like, I had two possible upsets like kind of on my radar, and one was Ole Miss, the other was Auburn. Auburn did not pull off their upset against Florida State, but Ole Miss, they sure did. Played the max amount of games you possibly could play. Ole Miss beat them on day 2 to make it into the regional final. Arizona had to go into that losers bracket, beat Grand Canyon, come back. Then they beat Ole Miss 10-1. So you would think they could pull it off again. And somehow, some way, Ole Miss pulled some things together, and then they were able to beat Arizona 7-3. The Fayetteville Regional, so this had Oklahoma State, Indiana, St. Louis, and Arkansas. This is one that I was kind of like, can OSU pull off the upset? But no. And Brie Ellis was not even like fully on, I feel like, this weekend. Not that she was gonna get a ton to hit anyways. Oklahoma State opened up their first game scoring 11 runs. I was like, oh, okay, I think we're gonna see some fight here. Arkansas played St. Louis, they beat them 10-0, but I was like, all right, we're gonna get a strong showing of the bats on fire. And that second game that they played, OSU and Arkansas, it was Arkansas pulled it out 6-5 to send themselves to the regional final, and then they mollywopped OSU 12-0, and then they headed to their super regionals. So next we head over to the other side of the bracket, and this was the Norman Regional. So we had California, Omaha, BU, and Oklahoma. Again, this is one that like was not super interested to me. I really was not anticipating most teams to give Oklahoma a run for their money, not in a regional, to be honest. And that's exactly what happened. Like, they beat BU 8-0 day 1, then they came back, beat California 11-2, and then they beat Cal again of 1 on in the regional final. No losses, rolled through that pretty easy. No big scares of like teams scoring a ton of runs on them. Wasn't shocking. One that I thought maybe could pull off the upset was Virginia Tech, but this is I only thought they could pull off an upset while I was watching them play Alabama. Their games against Alabama were so close. They lost both those games by 1 run apiece. This close. Their losers bracket game, Virginia Tech beat Belmont 11-1. So I was like, oh, okay, they just need to pull some hits together, and then they lost again to Alabama 3-2. So Tuscaloosa Regional to Alabama, another big upset. And I think, to me, I was very excited to see how hype Southeastern Louisiana was. You could tell they weren't taking the moment for granted, if that makes sense. Like, not that they were grateful to be there, but it was like they weren't taking the moment for granted. Like, every hit, every play, like, they were making sure to leave it all out there. Beat LSU the first game to send LSU into the losers bracket, and they beat UConn. I mean, the Huskies, I was rooting for them. But these champions for the first time in softball school history, I thought they would give more of a fight. But they dropped game 1 to Nebraska, and it was downhill from there. And speaking of Nebraska, I was thrilled to see Jordy Ball again, back from an injury. If you don't know, Jordy Ball won 2 championships at OU, and then she wanted to transfer to be closer to home. She's from Nebraska and play for her home team, and so she is back at Nebraska, and she may, if they make it out of their super regional, may end up having to face OU, but they are going to face Tennessee. But Nebraska, they rolled through that regional tournament, so I'm excited to see them face Tennessee. Next up, Tennessee. This is another one that I thought Ohio State, and they have a lot of power, and I just, with Carlin Pickens and the speed that she throws out, the power supplied to send the ball out when you do connect is crazy. So I really did think maybe they would put up a little bit more of a fight, but Tennessee beat Ohio State twice and sent themselves to the regional final. They also beat Miami of Ohio on in their game 1, 17-zip. So yeah, Tennessee, that one was one that I was like, well, could it be interesting? Sometimes the way Texas plays in the postseason really worries me. I'm going to admit, this one, I didn't watch a ton of this regional, if we're being honest. So, like, I love Texas, like, from the Janae Jefferson days, even all the way back to watching Kat Osterman. Mia Scott's one of my favorite players to watch now. Sometimes in the postseason, I don't know what happens. I don't know if they're, like, wound too tight, but they start to make silly little mistakes, and it's weird. Michigan tried, but were unsuccessful, and then they ended up facing UCF in the regional final, beat them 9-zip. That was the Austin regional. We've got Clemson, the Clemson regional. So Clemson, another one who rolled through, no if necessary game needed, was Clemson, USC Upstate, Northwestern, Kentucky, and Kentucky, they tried. I thought Northwestern would end up being in that regional final with them, but it ended up being Kentucky, and then Clemson beat Kentucky 5-1. The thing with Kentucky, I don't know how many of y'all have been keeping up with them over the season, but Kentucky makes a lot of errors. I don't know if it's because they're a younger team or what it is, but they make quite a bit of errors. I think sometimes they overthink the play too much. I think it's something that they will probably be working on in the off season and then improving a ton next year. So I'm excited to watch them next year. Got another upset. Um, Poor Duke, man. And like not poor Duke, like in a bad way necessarily. I think Coach Marissa Young, this is only their 7th or 8th year as a softball program, and they've already been to the College World Series. I am excited for Georgia because I feel like it's been a long time since Georgia has been to the Women's College World Series. So I am curious to see if that will happen. But these were exciting games to watch because it was just like no knowing who was going to win. Like every single game was like, oh, oh, somebody jumps out first. So this was this was a great series to watch for me. Last but not least, the Florida Gainesville regional. I mean, Florida kind of rolled through everybody. Mercer put up a bit of a fight. Did think that it would be closer. That regional final, Florida ended up winning 8-zip. I did think it would be a closer game than it was, but Florida, they are hot right now, and so I can't wait to see what goes on. Drop in the comments if you have any questions or players that you want me to highlight, and we'll go from there. I hope you're watching softball because I sure will be. Okay, bye.